Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today is step 5, part 2 in a series of videos I'm doing on how to get started homeschooling. So if you are interested in hearing the second part of the 5th step, then hit that thumbs up button and let's get right into it. Last time in step 5, part 1, I talked about scheduling out your whole year and looking at the big picture and then breaking it down into terms so that we can narrow down those terms into weekly and daily schedules. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So the first thing you want to do is you look at your first term, term 1, however many weeks you have, 6, 12, whatever you decided on in that last step. Then you're going to look at each specific week. You only have Monday through Friday, or you can look at it that you have Sunday to Saturday. You need to decide when you want to school during the week. For an idea for you, my family personally schools on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. That gives us a break right in the middle of the week on Wednesday, and then we have the end cap on the weekend. So this schedule has worked wonderfully for us because we school for 2 days and then we get a break, and then we school for another 2 days and then we get a weekend break. And that has been working out great for us. Now, some people like to school Monday through Thursday and then have Fridays off. You might want to also consider, if you are a part of a co-op or some sort of homeschool group, what day they meet on. And it is very realistic to school only 4 days a week. Now, you could school 3 days a week, but have longer days. My family schools 4 days a week, but we only school from morning until lunchtime. We're pretty much done by, well, I say lunchtime, but it's more like nap time. My youngest daughter takes a nap at 1, and so we wrap up math lessons then because she's sleeping and not distracting anybody, and so we can do our math lessons. So we only do school for half of the day. But if you only can squeeze in 3 days of school, maybe you are still working part-time or you're tag teaming with your husband, then you can realistically do a longer day for a shorter amount of days during the week. It's up to you and what works for you and your family personally. Another way you can look at your week is you have 7 days. So you could very easily schedule a little bit of school for 7 full days straight. So you do maybe 2 hours of school on Monday, 2 hours of school on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can be done with school for most of the day and only school a short amount of time. So these are all options for you to consider when you're looking at your whole week. Now also, whenever you're looking at your weekly schedule, you can consider keeping certain subjects on certain days and other subjects on other days. This is what's called block scheduling. So, for example, my family personally does block scheduling. We do a little bit of all scheduling methods I'm going to share with you. So I will tell you how it applies to my family as I bring it up. We do block scheduling for certain subjects, for history and geography. So for history, we cover history on Mondays and Thursdays. And geography, we cover it on Tuesdays and Fridays. So on each of those days, I know exactly what we're covering. It's basically every other. So Monday, history, Tuesday, geography. Thursday, history, Friday, geography. So it works well for us in that regard. This would work well for you if you have a regular weekly routine. Now, another scheduling method for your week and even your day, we're getting down to the day now, but another way to schedule your subjects is by loop. And so a loop is basically you have a list of subjects or things that you want to cover, and you work your way down. So you say, let's say, for example, we do a loop schedule for our morning basket. So for our morning basket, I'll have, what do we have in our morning basket? We have folk songs and hymns. We have our Burgess Bird book. We have our read aloud. We have our scripture memory. We have quite an extensive morning time loop. Now, I will say you don't want it to go too long. I think I have 5 things on my loop. So we'll start with, character study. So we'll start with character study, and I'll read a story or we'll discuss our character trait. And then once we're done with that, I'll move on to our next subject in the loop, and that's probably a read aloud. So I'll read aloud for maybe a chapter or for 5 minutes, just depending on how we're feeling. And then we'll move on to the next thing in our loop, and then the next thing. And then let's say morning time ends, or the kids have lost interest and they've moved on to other things and I no longer have their attention, which often happens. Then we'll cut morning time, we'll call morning time done, and whatever's left on the morning time list for our loop, we'll work on it the next day during morning time. So instead of starting back at character study, I'm going to start down at the subject that I didn't get to. Or maybe we started discussing character study, but we didn't really get to finish our story for whatever reason, then I'll just pick up where I left off. So that's essentially what loop scheduling is, just working your way continuously through like a loop. Those are 2 ways that you can schedule your week. Block scheduling, where there's specific subjects for each day, and then loop scheduling, where you loop through your subject. So you could also, an example of doing that, a loop through the week would be, you can loop your subjects. So let's say you do history, geography, and science. On Monday, you do history and a little bit of geography, but then you run out of time on your loop. So then on Tuesday, you can do science. And then you loop back up to history on Tuesday, but then you run out of time. And then on Wednesday, you pick up with geography or wherever you're at in the loop. So that's what it could look like through the week. Loop scheduling allows you to never really get behind. Whereas block scheduling, you're not behind, but if you miss a day because, life happens and you just, decide it's not going to happen today for school, then if you have a block schedule on, Mondays, you're covering history. If you don't cover history then, but you're not going to get to history again until Thursday, so you kind of have quite a while that you've skipped. This works okay for some subjects. Other subjects, it doesn't. Like if you do math on a block schedule and you cover math on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, if you miss math on Monday, you're not going to be reviewing it because you've had that whole weekend. If you don't school on the weekend, and then Monday and Tuesday, you're not going to get it until Wednesday. And in order to get good at math, your kids need daily, regular practice. So I wouldn't advise putting math on a block schedule. But looping specific subjects or activities within a subject is also an option for you, where you could loop, let's say, your math work. So you have math drill, math review, and then a new lesson. You could keep looping through those for your math block or your math time slot that you choose to do math. So let's get to our scheduling your specific homeschool day. So you want to start out with the time that you already have, obviously. You can't be schooling in the middle of the night. That's not everyone's sleeping then, right? So what you want to do is you want to start on a piece of paper, write the time that you wake up and the time that you go to sleep, and then fill it in by hour or by every half hour. Now there are a couple of ways to schedule out your homeschool day. The first option for scheduling out your homeschool day would be to do it in what's called timetables. Now this is probably what you're most familiar with if you've come from a public school background, where a timetable is basically like, for math, you do math from 9:30 to 9:50, okay? You have 20 minutes of math. Yeah. And then once that time is over, you move to the next time for maybe you're covering science from 10 o'clock to 10:20, and so on and so forth. You have specific time slots for each subject that you cover throughout the day. You have lunch from 12:10 to 12:45, and then at 12:50 you start with your history or something like that. That's what's called timetables. And so that can work for those who really like schedule and who like specific time frames to work in, who are really type A, I guess, and you just like that structure, that framework for your day. Now for some people that really stresses them out, boxes them in, and doesn't feel like they really have room to go with the flow in life. And so for those people, on the opposite side of timetables would be what's called routines, or like a relaxed schedule, which basically how you would schedule that out is you would start with the natural rhythm and routine of your day. So what time do you usually wake up? Well, you wake up in the morning, so and maybe it varies from like 8:30 to 9:30, somewhere in there. You and the kids wake up at some point during that time. So you would take your morning routine, and what comes before it and what comes after it would be the key here. So you have your morning time routine where you wake up and you have breakfast and you do your morning time basket or whatever. And then the kids go off and do their thing, or you get sidetracked with something that you've discussed in morning time and that becomes a lesson. And so you kind of spend some time on that. Maybe the kids do some artwork or whatever. And then you're done schooling for that morning time frame. And then your next like anchor to your day, or the natural rhythm of your day, would be lunchtime. So what happens directly before and what happens directly after would be the key here. So directly before lunch, y'all are doing, home ec kind of studies. Your kids are helping you make lunch. They're learning to set the table. They're cleaning up. That kind of thing happens to get you ready for the lunchtime block. And then after you eat lunch, then you usually have a pattern or a rhythm, or just something. You've set an expectation of what happens after lunch. So maybe you get right down to your math. You pull out your math books, or maybe you do your reading lesson at that point. Whatever the case may be, you have set specific anchors in your day where certain things happen. So that would be more of a relaxed routine based off of your natural daily rhythms. Routine and rhythm and all that stuff, it is all combined into like a relaxed schedule. I kind of follow that in the form of anchors to our day and what happens before and after, but we also do more of a time, I don't know. I mix and match all the time. Sometimes I'm really rigid and I start school at 9:30 on the dot, and that's when we start. And then other times we're having a great time on our morning walk and we're really discovering some great stuff, and so then I just let it be and go from there. So I use the time tables when I need to get the kids in line, when they're getting out of control. Okay, it's time to wrap up playtime at the playground because we've got school and we're gonna get behind if we don't, get to it, that kind of thing. I use it as my mom card, if you will. Another way you can consider scheduling your subjects during the day is basically just by a checklist. And so you give your kids a checklist that they have to work through at any time that they choose. This works well for older children, not necessarily younger children, but it could also work for younger children. I have tried it with my son, and for seasons it works, and other seasons it doesn't. We're in a season where it's not working right now. But during the summertime, a checklist really works well for us, because since we school year round, in the summertime, my son loves to be outside and he loves to play and go to the pool and do all the fun summery things that you can do. It's his favorite season. And so that serves as an incentive to get the checklist done. And he's very visual, and so it helps him to see what he needs to do in order to do the things he wants to do. And so I let him choose when he wants to do those things. As long as he gets it done, he can go outside and do all the summery things he wants to do. So checklists at that time, in that season of life, or in those seasons, helps us personally, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Checklists might work for older kids better than younger kids, but these are all just options for you to consider as you schedule your homeschool day. That is it for part 2 of step 5. I hope that this video helped you and that these series of videos is helping you get ready and get prepared for homeschooling. So we have one more step, step 6 after this, the 6th and final step of this video series, and I will see you then. Of course, the blowers come over here while I'm trying to do a video. Go away. And once you get done with on Monday, my family, that would be block scheduling. But Judah, those things are so loud. Just try to stop moving them so much. That is it for step 5 of part 2. That is it for part 2 of step 5.